So do you ever find that people around you become like really helpless every time that they're around you? And it's not because they're dumb or it's not because they can't or not because or whatever, but like as soon as they see you, it's like their legs don't work or their brain doesn't work or they can't do anything. And then all of a sudden they're just like relying on you to do whatever it is, like whether it's the manual labor, whether it's the emotional labor, whether it's the problem solving, whether it's the troubleshooting. All of a sudden they just don't know how to do anything because you're in the room. Like they see you and it's like all information I have, it has left their brains. They're just relying on you. Do you resonate with that? So go ahead and take a nice deep breath in, inhale in and exhale out. So I'm getting off of a couple of things today, which is I was hosting a nervous system regulation workshop for coaches and healers who want to be able to get sustainable results for their clients. And then I ran directly into a bunch of mentorship calls. And basically, what I know about people who are my mentees or who work with me is that they're very much the givers, the doers, the overachievers, the very intelligent, the smart, the problem solvers, the troubleshooters. You know how to solve your problem, everybody's problems, and everybody's like relying on you to be able to do that. But with that, with the gift also comes the curse. It comes the consequences. There's also a lot of negatives to being somebody who can do a lot and who can take care of things and who can, figure it out for other people, not just for yourself, but for other people too, is that people learn how to be helpless around you. Okay. It is a known phenomenon in psychology known as learned helplessness. Okay. So if you've kind of like smelt it around you, you've always felt like as soon as I'm in the group or as soon as I'm here, they're just like relying on you to do all of the work. Whether again, I mentioned the physical work or the emotional work or the mental work or whatever type of load you tend to hold, people learn to be helpless around you. Okay. So if that is you, again, take a nice deep breath, inhale and exhale, because it is a triggering place to be sometimes. As much as you like to be helpful, as much as you like to support people, as much as you like to share the information, it can also feel like, why isn't anybody doing that for me? Like why isn't anybody supporting me? Like why isn't somebody like contributing to problem solving or contributing to helping figure this out or contributing to brainstorming? Why is all the mental cognitive load on me? Like I know I'm smart, but like you have a brain too, like I know that I know how to do many things because I know how to figure it out, but like can you contribute? Like can you at least like help me think through this? There's this frustration energy with that as well. So if you resonate with that, number one, subscribe to this podcast. If you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Go ahead and subscribe. This is the Playground Podcast. I'm Shanila Sattar, and I host conversations all about self mastery, self exploration, spiritual exploration, everything to do with learning to love yourself on the path to learning how to live in this world that we're all just trying to figure out. It is your playground, and sometimes we're just taking it too seriously. So, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and 100% leave a comment if you are resonating with anything that I've said before. Like, people just learn to be like absolutely helpless around you. If you resonate with that, leave a comment. Now, let's fully get into the conversation about learned helplessness and what that actually is, how that shows up in your life, and how you're not fully innocent in why people are so helpless around you. You're not fully innocent, right? And the thing is, if you are somebody who falls into this hyper aroused category, meaning that if this middle is your flow state, if there's something in the middle ground that is your flow state where you feel very authentically you feel energized, you're helping people, but you also know how to detract and extract your energy. You also know how to give your energy. You know how to draw boundaries around it. You have energy hygiene around that. You're in this thing called the flow state. You're able to go up and down and being able to go to flow. But people who are hyper aroused, meaning that you are overactivated in your nervous system, you are overdriven in your nervous system, you experience something called hyper arousal. And basically, hyper arousal is all of those qualities that I already just described for you. It's all the problem solving skills. It's all the troubleshooting energy. It's all the can do. It's the let me fix it. Let me figure it out. It's the going and saving people kind of energy sometimes as well. Especially if you're a coach, you're a healer, you're a therapist, you have a little bit of that intertwined, sprinkled in there somewhere. But essentially, what happens is that if you are prone to being somebody who is in this hyper aroused state, you're also prone to attracting people who are on the opposite side of the spectrum. Because you know how they say opposites attract, right? right? Like it's like if you have it, they want it. If you got it, then somebody's like attracting. And that's a great thing because it's like you have a problem, I have the solution. Like you don't know how to do, I do. Let me tell you, right? Like there is benefit and value, but sometimes you're attracting just too many people of that same quality. You're attracting too many people who are just absolutely learning to be helpless around you. Okay. And at first, it's like if you're going off of that savior complex that often a lot of people in the hyper aroused the category do, if you have that savior complex, then you're just like, look at all these people that I can save. Like, oh, look at all these people that don't know anything, and then I can teach them. Like, look at all these helpless people. And some people get a rise out of that, like you feel like you're being useful and you feel like you're being your skills are being utilized in a certain way. So I do think that, sometimes you're the culprit, like you're enjoying it too much, and then you're complaining like, oh, look at how much people need, like look how how needy they are. Look, and but you're training them to be that way. You're asking them to need you, you're asking them to be dependent on you, you're asking them to rely on you. And part of it is, where is your boundary on that? Okay. So what happens for a lot of people who are in this hyper aroused category is that because you tend to be very smart, very intelligent, very much, able to troubleshoot and brainstorm, a lot of the obstacles that are in your life are not necessarily like big obstacles in the sense the way that you approach obstacles. They're not a big deal to you. For somebody else, it's like, oh no, this is in the way. How do I get now this is going to take me 12 years to figure it out. And you're like, oh, obstacle. Oh, okay. We can go around it or we can go over it. Or like, here's my hammer. I'm going to break it. And so now there's no obstacle. You're somebody who's not like convinced that you're the victim. And that doesn't mean that nothing has happened in your life where like you shouldn't or couldn't be a victim, but it's like, you're not convinced that like that's where you want to live. It doesn't empower you to be so helpless and just be like, oh, these things happen to me. There's this obstacle. I can't do it. Da, da, da. It's not a cute narrative for you. And so what happens for you is that you get very much you get very addicted to solving problems, right? Like you get addicted to being able to solve the problem, whether it's for yourself or other people. Many times people are looking at you as the problem solver. And in a friend group, it's like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, of course. Like, it feels good to, solve a problem or to give somebody a perspective that they haven't thought about, or to, change and help shift a perspective that somebody may not have come to themselves. Of course, it feels good in a friend group, in a relationship, or in whatever context. For me, when I'm working with clients and it's like, oh, I help them shift the perspective, it's like, yeah, for sure, I feel good. I'm not like immune to, like feeling good for my skills being valued. Like, duh, I feel good about it. But there's a part of the folks who are so good at problem solving that people learn to not use their brains around you too. Because it's like, oh, she's going to come up with a better idea. So I'm just going to fully shut off my brain. She's going to come up with a better solution. So I'm going to fully not be useful in this brainstorming. And there is this part of them that feels safe to do that with you. And on one hand, it's like, well, I'm glad you trust me. Like on one hand, it's like, I'm glad you trust me to, take care of that. And then on that same hand, it's like, I'm glad you trust me to, come up with the best solution for us. Like there is that trust that is really important and it's really valuable to have from other people. But with that trust also comes that learned helplessness piece, which is like, if I wasn't using my brain for you, can you still use your brain? If I wasn't using my intuition for you, can you still come up with the conclusion for yourself? If I wasn't giving you this like spelled out solution to the answer, or to the question, giving you a spelled out answer to the question, would you be able to come to that conclusion yourself? Okay. And so this is the part of the conversation where I know that many people who listen to the podcast, you are healers, you're coaches, you are wellness practitioners, you're people who are in service, like you like to do it. It's not like, oh my gosh, like this is my God-given job. Like maybe you believe that, but also part of you enjoys helping people and helping people solve their problems and helping being in service in a way that is aligned to the skill sets that you have naturally, and also the ones that you have, built over time, you feel good about it. But what happens to healers is that because you're attracting so many people who are counting on you in that way, they're also learning to not how to do it for themselves. So it's true, maybe they will never be able to do it the way that you can do it, and especially as a high achiever, as an overachiever, as somebody who can do anything, nobody's gonna be able to do it like you. You know what I mean? It's like you already know that. I already know that. It's like I know you're not gonna come to this caliber of a conclusion at the speed and at the agility and at the accuracy as I am, but if you don't learn how to practice, you'll never learn it at all, right? It's like in this moment, you can't come to these conclusions yourself. But if I never let you practice, then you will never be able to come to this conclusion yourself. You'll never be able to do it better than me for you, right? And so there is that part of you as a healer, coach, wellness practitioner, however it is that you're resonating with your title of the label that you have taken on, is to say that if you're complaining that there's so many people that are not very helpful to themselves around you, this is the part where you point your finger back to yourself and say, how am I complicit in that? Right. And there are certain things where it's like, yeah, for example, if you think about like a child, right? A child who maybe has no other complications, developmental complications, or any other concerns that would impact the way that they're learning or developing. If you're looking at a child and you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to tie your shoes for you, but eventually, like, you're going to learn to tie your shoes, right? Or I'm going to feed you, but eventually you're going to learn how to feed yourself too. And that's just like a general expectations of like, hey, I'm going to do it for you for now, but eventually, whether it's age, whether it's ability, whether it's like, fine motor skills or whatever it is, like eventually I hope that you'll be able to eat for yourself. And because like when you're again, I'm mentioning like if the child doesn't have any developmental concerns or any other special needs concerns, it's like, yeah, I hope that this child will be able to feed themselves, by the time they're a certain age or etc. Right? So that would be a reasonable expectation to have in that scope of development. Now, that applies to other people who are in your life where you might do certain things for them, but you're also expecting that they're going to be able to do that for themselves eventually. So whatever their learning curve is, whether it takes them, it's not like, oh, if you don't learn by Wednesday, then we can't talk and you're using me. It's like, okay, maybe that's like too sudden, but there's certain things it's like, okay, you don't know how to do it right now, but like I'm giving you the skills, I'm giving you the support, I'm giving you the things for you to be able to learn how to do this, right? Because otherwise, you're just a babysitter. You're like babysitting people in your life when they haven't really learned the skills that they have the capacity to learn. It would be one thing if they didn't have the capacity to learn it. It would be one thing if they didn't have the resources to learn it. It would be one thing if they didn't know what they needed to learn, right? That would be one thing. But because you're doing it for them, like if you're feeding the person for the rest of their life, they're 40 and then they don't know how to use a spoon, or they don't know how to do this or they don't know how to do that. And this is very important in the relationships that you're cultivating, because some of you are in relationships, like romantic freaking relationships. You literally lay in bed with people who have learned to be helpless around you. Okay. And then you're complaining that it's like, oh, they don't know, they don't do this, they don't take out the trash, or they don't know how to do this and that. Because if they don't do it, you do it. So why would they learn how to do it when you do it? It's like, why would I need to touch the trash if you're touching the trash? Why would I need to do the dishes if I know that if I leave the dishes here for 2 days, you're going to complain and then you're going to do it. You're going to complain, but you're going to do it. You did it for me. So what is the motivation for me to do it? Because all I have to do is wait 2 days and then I have to listen to you bitch for 2 minutes and then you did it. So you're not really training the people around you to behave in the way that feels in alignment to how you want to be treated, number one, and also how you want to experience life, right? And it's not always comfortable to train the people around you. And I'm saying training in not a negative way. Everybody that you interact with is training you to behave a certain way with them and vice versa. So training is basically saying, how are we co-creating this experience, right? So if this person naturally learns that whenever they're around you, they're going to shut their brain off, they're going to take their mind off of these things, if that's the interaction you want with them, then beautiful. You have co-created that experience together. Like I just mentioned, is like, okay, well, sometimes I want somebody to do that with me. So I would love to be in an experience where I can like actually literally shut my brain off. And then I don't have to worry about like, did that detail get taken care of and this detail get taken care of? Is that like, did you just say it and to make me feel better, but it's not actually taken care of? Like I would love to be in a situation where it's like, oh, I could literally be helpless here. And I would fully enjoy that moment. You know, it's like claiming it for myself. I would fully love to be in a place where it's like, oh, somebody else is thinking about these things. And so then I can shut my brain and my mind and my energetic body. So it's not in this like hyper aware survival state or hyper aroused state. And then I can fully rest and digest. I can fully relax. Right. And so for folks who are really used to doing things for other people, you're going to find this process really annoying, you know, because let's go back to these dishes example, because that's like a classic example of like, yeah, somebody like literally learned to be helpless about not being able to do dishes. You know, for some reason, they were able to do that for 30 years of their life or however old they are. They were able to do these things when they lived by themselves or had a roommate, da da da. But as soon as they're married to you, they all of a sudden don't know how to do dishes. And they all of a sudden like that. I'm like, I'm so helpless. I don't like, oh, look at me. I put the wrong soap. I put hand soap in the dishwasher. Oh no, you know, and they're like, and they're frustrating you, you know, and whether they're like maliciously doing that, because oftentimes it's not malicious. It's just like, they could have thought about it a little 2 seconds extra and then like avoided that mistake or avoided like whatever was annoying. But sometimes it's not malicious and sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not malicious, right? And so that person's like, oh yeah, and so now you're here frustrated, like you're gonna ruin the floor because like you're putting hand soap in the dishwasher, like you're doing this, and like how did you load the dishwasher this way? And why are you using this scrub on this pan and is scraping all the non-stick, like whatever, right? Like whatever it is that it's annoying you about the situation. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna say, I'll do it myself. I'll do it myself. Hey, well, you if you want it done right, then you better do it yourself. But it's also a really frustrating process because now you're going to be on the other end of the complaint, like, look at me, I do everything myself. Oh, okay. You never heard that story before, right? It's like, I'm doing everything myself. Like, nobody helps me. Nobody does this and that. And it is a frustrating piece of the labor because why do you have to train somebody to do the fucking dishes? Like, why is that your responsibility? Because and then there's that additional frustration. It's like, why do I have to like be a dish trainer? Like, why is that part of my role? Isn't that frustrating? But that is part of the interaction, right? That is part of that frustrating interaction. Whether you have to look at yourself is like, why am I jumping in to solve somebody's problem? Because the problem they're going to have if they're not doing the things that we're having here, we're trying to accommodate here, is that they're going to have a frustrated person to deal with. And if a frustrated person to deal with isn't enough for them to change their behavior, then I have to reconsider my interaction. Like, why is their interaction with me inconsiderate? Why are they willing to have me in the home frustrated? Why am I allowed to feel untaken care of and unsupported and unprovided for or fill in the blank, whatever it is that you feel from whatever imaginary situation or real life situation we're talking about in your mind right now, right? Like, why do I have to exist this way so that you can feel whatever it is that you need to feel? So there's that compromise situation that comes up and learned helplessness. And I was like speaking sneakily into the mic. I was like, but sometimes it is malicious, which is true. And that is something to keep in mind, is that some people weaponize the fact that you are going to solve the problem. So that's why they all of a sudden know how to do the dishes because they know that you're gonna fix it, you're gonna do it, you're gonna, you're gonna swoop in with your savior complex and you're gonna save the situation. And you're not really saving them, you're saving yourself because I don't have time to be frustrated. I have other shit to do. I have other things to think about. Like, this is not the energy or the vibe that I want to be in. So you're going to fix it. So they might be actually manipulating you into this situation. They know that you're going to behave this way. They know that you're going to get hyper aroused and hyper activated into that. And so, I mean, like, should you have a dish off? Like, they leave the dishes 2 days, and then you don't sweep in, and you are asking, and now all of a sudden you have to ask and beg for things to be taken care of for 4 days. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, well, I don't have the right solution for you. I don't have the right pathway. I would have to know you specifically to like give you, an accurate suggestion for that. But this is also to say that if you are in interactions with people who are maliciously helpless around you, they're not considering your feelings. They're not considering that your frustration is really real. And your frustration actually triggers something completely different within you. It triggers abandonment. It triggers nobody gives a shit about me. It triggers the fact that you have to fight and advocate for yourself in every single situation. And a person that you're supposed to love, and a person who's supposed to love you, and a person who's supposed to take care of you and bother, accommodating you, is making a conscious choice not to do that. And that is really violent. That is a violent decision on their part. And it's like, yeah, well, they didn't like, is that there was no physical violence? Like in this situation that we're talking about, like that's not physically violent. It's a little mentally violent, but it's emotionally violent. And when you feel that emotional violence, it's not a head thing. You feel it in your stomach. Your stomach clenches like this. So a lot of people, when you have your intuition gurgling in your tummy, and when you have that feeling in your stomach, are you manifesting illnesses here too? Is your liver overworking? Are your kidneys overactivated? Do you have cysts down there? Are you experiencing cramps? There's all of this heightened energy that is sitting in your stomach. It's fire energy. Okay. So in this energetic way that we're talking right now, is frustration is a energy of fire. It is a emotion, energy in motion, emotion. It is a emotion and an energy that is housed in your physical body. It is housed in your stomach. It is housed in your womb space. It is housed in your lower back, but specifically your tummy, your stomach. So your intestines, when they're going when you know that there's been an emotional violence, right? Like I said, like no one hit you in this, like nobody did anything physically violent, and nobody like brushed against you. Like nothing physical happened in this example that we're talking about, this dumb dishes. But when they're like on purpose doing it over and over again, don't you feel something in your body? Don't you feel like it's a violation to respect? It's like disrespectful. Like whenever it is like an actual disrespect, right? When you know that this is something that is important to you, it's been communicated in reasonable communication. Like you're not shouting from the first day, like dishes, because then that's like over their head. Like you reasonably communicated that you don't like the bugs, you don't like the smells, like you like your home clean in a certain way and taken care of in a certain way. It makes you feel like this is your sanctuary. You already communicated that. This is just not being respected in this particular interaction, the co-creation of this interaction. Okay. So let me move away from this dishes example, because part of it is like, oh, okay, this is a co-living situation. This is a person who's perhaps a spouse. This is a person who lives in your home. But what if it's not like that? What if it's not a romantic relationship, but it is, certain friends that you're hanging out with, and they're always counting on you to be the planner, and not because you specifically hate being the planner, because you do like taking care of things, and you do like having the itinerary, you do like having done some research and something, but then they have done nothing of that and they are totally helpless. And so if you were not calculating and doing this and making sure that everything is going this way, then both of you would be lost. Both of you would not be able to have the experience that you're wanting. You'd be spending time, money, energy, resources, attention, things that you value would be wasted because the person who does not value those things are taking them from you. Yeah. And it's so different when you're traveling or you're going to some place with a person who equally put in that effort. So you did a little bit of organization and they did a little organization, and then it comes through, and people who are the organizers, oh my gosh, bless you. Bless you when you travel with me. Bless you when you come to things with me. Bless you when you put in your effort to like also figure out like, oh, that's that direction. Oh, that's this map, or that's this part, or that's this part. Because this person who's done the organization is using so much cognitive space to do that, to be present, to be here, to like you really take care of that environment. It's a lot of cognitive energy. And it's also a lot of emotional labor. So when you don't know when this thing or that thing has happened, and you ask the person who's the organizer, they're having to hold this stuff in their memory. It is effort to hold things in your memory. They're also having to hold that in their energetic body too. So they're not able to fully relax or shut off their mind because they know the information, but you're going to ask them for the information in 2 seconds. And if you don't get the information, then like all of a sudden you're feeling abandoned. All of a sudden you feel like panic. And now they have to deal with your panic. So because they don't want to deal with your panic, they make sure that everything is taken care of. Everything is taken care of. But they're not relaxing. Their brain is not shut up. Their brain is in full survival mode. Right. And there's certain cases like, let's go back to an example of a mom. When you're a mom and your baby is 3 and your baby's 2, your baby's 1, like, you're not expecting that the child is, like, taking care of the details. You know, like, you as the mom, like, you may and your partner too, but, like, in this situation with you, just the mom and his child, it's like, no, you're the one who's, like, coordinating all the details. You're responsible for the safety, you're responsible for the details, you're responsible for X, Y, and Z, whatever needs to be taken care of, you're responsible for that, and you accept that. And it would be really difficult for you to, like, fully shut off your mom brain and be like, just like fully relax. And so if somebody came and be like, relax, you're like, shut up. You don't know like everything that I'm like worried about here. Like, is this lead? Is this safe? Is this thing? And I'm watching the window. I have the fire escape over here. I have the phone number and the diaper bag, and this is that. It's like you are taking care of all the details. And so your body is in a survival state, even if everything's wrong, if everything's right, nothing's going wrong, like you're not nobody's like in actual danger, but your physical body says a different way. You're in protection mode. You're in this like very hyper masculine energy state. And by masculine, I don't mean man. I'm saying like a mom, like with a masculine energy that is feeling very protective. There's a masculine energy. So masculine feminine never means man or woman. It means the contrast of energy. Masculine often refers to strength and structure and leadership. And then feminine refers to the flow, creativity, sensuality, the intuition. So both energies exist in every person, in every body, in every person. So when you're in this like hyper masculine energy, it makes you feel like you're the protector, you're the doer, you're the caretaker, you're the one who's like you're responsible. You're the one who's like the provider of the safety of that. And in this situation, you are like you're the mom in this place, like go take care of your child. You know what I mean? It's like it's not just like, the nurturing that you provide, you're providing safety, you're providing comfort, you're providing like all of these different things that your child is like relying on you for. So when this child grows up and they're 45, that's not the same interaction or the same relationship that you have. There's some roles that change. There's some shifts that happen where, that child that you used to look after and you used to take care of and you used to protect is kind of, the relationship is transferring. And some parents were never parents to their children. They were always the child in the parent relationship. That is also true. But then there's certain parts of your growth and your life and your chapters of life where that relationship can change too. So now you learn to be a little bit more helpless, like you learn to be more of that child in the situation. And as parents age and they become older, that relationship can shift as well. But as I mentioned, some parents never really parented their children. The children parented themselves, and they're also parenting their parents. That is also very true for people who grew up in that interaction as well. So now, when those interactions change, that is a completely different circumstance and a completely different scenario. There's relationships that change. So let me come back to that emotion that we talked about, which is the emotion of frustration. And it is really heavy for folks who feel like they can't fully shut off, or even just like 10% shut off. It's like not 100%, it's like 10% shut off, 20%, just like a very low percent. Can I shut off just a little bit? And if the answer is like, I can never shut off because like I cannot trust you to consider me. I cannot trust you to take care of the detail if I wasn't micromanaging this. And I can't trust you. If I can't trust, I can't really shut off. and then that makes you frustrated. And that frustration energy is so heavy. It is so much weight to bear because it's not just like, "Mm, mm, mm, mm," because as I mentioned, it triggers something that's a little bit deeper. It triggers abandonment, it triggers rejection, it triggers abuse, it triggers love life, it triggers some things just a lot deeper than, oh, someone didn't do the dishes. Because this fight's not about the dishes, and it's not about, whatever you think it is on the surface. The higher you, the greater intelligence of you already knows that. It's not about what it seems like it's about at face value. It's about something completely different. But if you're fully frustrated all the time, that you're attracting people who are always learning to be absolutely helpless around you, it is a learned behavior. It is also a trainable behavior for both parties. So as you train yourself to not just like swoop in and do everything for them, and you just let other people's problems be their problems, all of a sudden they learn to be less helpless. Lo and behold, they figured it out. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, you ever like had a relationship or something and like, they just wouldn't do a behavior or like they just wouldn't do a thing. And then like in their next relationship, like lo and behold, they figured it out. They figured out how to do that. All of a sudden they can do the thing that they could never do. They'll figure it out. They also know that because you were solving it for them, every time you swoop in, you fix the problem, you have the solution, you have the thing. There's no motivation for them to figure it out. Why would I learn to use the dishwasher if you know how to do the dishwasher? And I feel this way anytime somebody drives like a manual car. Like, why would I learn to drive a manual car when I can just have you driving me around? Why would I do that when I want you to pick me up? Like I want you to do the thing. Like, why would I be learning a thing that I don't actually want to do? And it's not like I don't have the capacity to learn it, but it's like, why would I do it if you can just do it for me? You know what I mean? And that's also fine. There's certain things like if that is in your desire, if that is in like the motivation of like how it is that you want to experience life, that is totally fair and fine for you to do. But when learned helplessness is impacting the way that you're being helpless is impacting co-creating what two people or maybe a group of people want to experience together, that's when it becomes violent, right? Like if it's actually taking away from somebody's life because now they're having to experience frustration from you being, absolutely unwilling to learn a skill or unwilling to do a thing or unwilling to like support the co-creation of the relationship. Yeah. So take deep breaths here and totally investigate, like if people have learned to be helpless around you. I've definitely experienced this in my personal life and continue to in certain ways, and certain things are a lot less frustrating because it's like, oh, okay, their age can change a thing or the interaction or the type of contact they have with me. It doesn't super, impede on my life in the way that it used to or whatnot, or I have a different tolerance for it. Absolutely. But then there's certain things I just don't have a tolerance for. The tolerance is very low. It's like, okay, don't be helpless around me. Because it's like, then like, you need to pay me for this activity then. You know what I mean? Like, you need to, if I'm going to do everything and solve everything for you, it has to be reciprocal too. And that's reciprocal energy has been a very important thing in my life and in my friendships as well, where I've learned to, step back from caretaking everything or step back from organizing everything or having the details. And the people who can't deal with that, if I'm like not doing everything and it's triggering their abandonment moods because I'm not like solving all their problems, I feel like that is a beautiful gift that I'm giving to them, an opportunity to heal their abandonment wounds, to heal their own ability to take care of themselves, to be able to not feel like if somebody's not doing everything for you, then all of a sudden they don't love you or care for you, or they're like rejecting you or abandoning you. That's some childhood stuff that you need to look at over there. Over there, over there. Okay. So that has also been part of my healing to say, why do I have these people here? And it's like not for the lack of love and care and just like value of that person, but you also have to consider like what kind of, respect do you want to have for yourself? What kind of interactions do you want to be in? What kind of, tolerance levels do you want to initiate and activate in your life, and those things might change over time. You might have more or less tolerance in different parts of your life. One tolerance level or value is not like better or worse. It's a personal decision. If somebody is okay with learned helplessness around them, like, you don't have to all of a sudden comment on their relationship, because if that's what they're happy with, and then that's what they're doing, and it's not like impeding on their life, then fully support that. I'll leave you here with that. And friend, if you enjoyed this conversation, definitely leave a 5-star rating on the Apple Store or Spotify, Audible, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. And if you're listening on YouTube, go ahead and leave a comment. Like, are you entertaining some learned helplessness people? And if so, why? Why are you doing that? Let me know. Give me a comment, and definitely subscribe to the podcast. And friends, I'm going to leave you a couple of links in the show notes, whether you want to work with me, whether you want mentorship, you want to come train as a breathwork facilitator or a sound healer, you want to explore the healing arts, all the details are going to be in the show notes. And friends, just remember, the world is your playground. And until next time, I will catch you soon.